Warren Howe. I was lieutenant commander. And as soon as we get back to Long Beach, I was detached to go to the Simon Lake. George Ellis, the commanding officer of the Simon Lake, we were there in the Holy Loch, and the only really naval facility in that area which had medical facilities. And during a NATO exercise, a fleet oiler had a sailor on board who had joined that ship in the States, was coming, and then they came across the North Atlantic, and this sailor was seasick from the minute he put foot on the ship all the way across the ocean. He couldn't eat, couldn't hold anything down. He was on IVs that the corpsman had been administering. And they got to the Holy Loch, and they sent him over to our sick bay for evaluation. Well, I took one look at this emaciated, dehydrated, really miserable sailor, and I got the history that he had, and I evaluated him. He wasn't seriously ill at that point, but clearly he was not going to be able to do naval service, and there's a provision in the manual of the medical department for discharging such a person administratively if they prove to have intractable seasickness. And so I said, look, son, you're just not going to be able to stay in the Navy. We're going to send you back to your ship. I will cut your orders. We're going to get your stuff, you bring it back here. We'll arrange your transportation back to the States, and you'll be discharged. And he said, well, my commanding officer won't like that. And I said, what do you mean? He said, my commanding officer told me that he was sure I could be saved for the Navy despite my seasickness. I said, well, I don't think that's the case, so for your safety and the Navy's well-being, you're going to be discharged. And I sent him back, and about a half an hour later, I hear ding, 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 Chucklewan arriving, when the captain of this fleet oiler had arrived. And about a half an hour after that, my phone rang, and the captain's yeoman said, Doc, the captain wants to see you in his stateroom. And I said, I know what this is about. And so we went up to George Ellis's stateroom, and George said, Doc, this is the captain of the Chucklewan. He wants to talk to you about the sailor you just sent back over. I said, okay. So the captain explained to me that how he really thought this sailor didn't need to be discharged and would be perfectly okay in the Navy and such. And after he finished his explanation, I said, well, Captain, I evaluated him just about 40 minutes ago, and I gave you the opinion that I thought that he shouldn't be kept in the Navy and he should be administratively discharged. I said, I can't change that opinion, but I would be happy to reevaluate him now and see whether my opinion has changed, but I'll bet it hasn't. At which point, Captain Ellis leaned over to this other captain and said, see, what did I tell you? Absolutely backing his people up. And the kid was successfully administratively discharged from the Navy, and hopefully his life was better than being on continuous IVs. I remember, for instance, one time on the Simon Lake when I was the medical officer, and I wanted to make a few minor modifications in the configuration of the sick bay. And in order to do that, you had to get permission from the damage control chief, who oversaw the integrity of the ship. Well, so Chief Kesterson came into my office. He was a grizzled old guy who had several ships shot out from underneath him during the Second World War. A Navy through and through, had been for his whole life. And he sat down, what do you want, Doc? And I said, well, I really want to put this door in a slightly different configuration. He muttered, hatch. And then I got on with this conversation further, and I said, and I really don't like the surface on the floor. And he said, deck. And I said, now I want to hang a curtain that's retractable between these two walls, and he said, bulkhead. And I said to myself, you know, he's not trying to correct me. He's translating what I'm saying into language that he can understand. And it's exactly what was going on. So that was kind of an eye-opening experience for me as a young officer.